Hey y'all, Iric Guy here, and within this video I want to talk about how the Black Bay has brought Tudor back to life. So I've got the Black Bay 58 Navy, and then I've got the Black Bay Chrono, and this is the reverse Panda or the inverted Panda. So how has the Black Bay line brought Tudor back to life? So if you looked at Tudor prior to the launch of the Black Bay, they had a lot of strange stuff, stuff that was not appealing. I mean, if you went into authorized dealer that may sell Omega, Rolex, Breitling, etc., you may have looked at those Tudor watches and been like, man, what is this? You probably didn't have a favorable opinion. So let's look at these up close here. I'm going to flip over to my other camera, and I'm going to show you in detail and explain in detail why the Black Bay is so good and why the Black Bay on today's market is such a it's a good find currently. And like most, Tudor is a sister brand of Rolex. Hans Willdorf, he created both Rolex and Tudor. So, like Rolex, these are probably going to continue to appreciate in value. These, I think, will. Now, the Tudor prior to the Black Bay, respectfully, it was a bunch of undesirable trash. And I don't mean that in a degrading way. I just mean it in an honest way. Now, the Black Bay lineup, on the other hand, is great. Now, this is the Black Bay 58. And you're probably wondering, why Black Bay 58 instead of the original Black Bay. Well, I find these case proportions, and I've got a 7.5-inch wrist. I find the Black Bay 58, which is 39 millimeter, I find it to be the perfect case proportion for the timepiece that it is. It's got a very satisfying bezel. And again, we're going to start up here at the 12 o'clock position. So it's a 60-click bezel. Now the Rolex Submariner, the current reference has 120 click, meaning that to go from 12 o'clock to 12 o'clock, on this one you would have 60 clicks. On the current reference Submariner from Rolex, you would have 120. Just a different feel. Both of the bezels are exceptional. It's obvious that both are, have Rolex DNA. Looking at the dial itself, this uses Super Luminova, which is a little bit different than the current reference Rolex Submariner, which uses Chromolite. Both are great in the dark. This has a greenish color, whereas the current reference Rolex Submariner has a bluish color. It kind of looks green, but it's more blue than green. Both of these, the Tudor Black Bay, when you look at this, it looks like, just from a design perspective, it's not as large. It doesn't have the, it's got an aluminum bezel insert instead of a ceramic bezel, so it has a more vintage, old school type look. But just because it looks old school, it's actually not, because you're dealing, it was a 70 or 72 hour power reserve. This bracelet has solid end links, none of that hollow, jingly, jangly stuff. So you're getting a high quality, just, from the case finishing to the bracelet, obviously water resistant to 200 meters, 660 feet. This is a COSC certified chronometer. Obviously a screw down crown. And when you look at this, down to the clasp here, you can tell that this is obviously a, if it didn't have the brand on the dial, you'd probably say, oh, that's a Rolex. But it's Rolex's sister brand. And, this is my favorite as far as Black Bay, just a no date, simple, symmetrical dial. This Black Bay 58 is a home run. Now, there's also, at the time of filming this, there's a few other Black Bay 58 references. I'm not a huge fan of the black one because it uses faux patina, fake patina, but a lot of people like it. I like this one because I feel like it'll develop a very authentic patina, and I think the blue looks really nice. It's just it's a great timepiece, very comfortable in the wrist at 39 millimeters. Obviously, the in-house movement and that Rolex Oyster style case back. So, no compromises here. Now, looking at another front, and this you may call the Baytona because it kind of looks like a Daytona, but it's Black Bay. Oh, and I wanted to mention both of these, giving that vintage, old school style look, you can see they've both got domed sapphire crystal, meaning that the sapphire crystal kind of sticks up. So, these have current technology within, but as far as from a design perspective, they look old school. Now this piece is 41 millimeters, and when you put it up side by side on the fat side with the Black Bay 58, you can see that it's a little bit taller. Now, it's not a big chunky thing. You know, I was afraid that the Tudor Chrono was going to be too chunky, and it's not. Personally, I'll admit I'm not a fan of the original Black Bays for me, because I've got a 7.5-inch wrist, and I feel that they just fit too tall on the wrist. But this is an exception, because I feel because it's a chronograph that proportionally it's correct, and on the wrist it feels great. This particular timepiece is just as comfortable as my Rolex Submariner. I've got a Rolex Submariner no date, just a Submariner 40 millimeter with a ceramic bezel. This is just as comfortable as that. Obviously this timepiece does not have a ceramic bezel. It's an aluminum bezel insert, which gives it more of a vintage old school type look. It does not have a sub-dial at the 6 o'clock position. Instead, it has a date. This does utilize, if you look very closely, it's got the red tip on the chronograph hand, and it's also got the 200 meters, 660 feet on the dial in red. And if you're familiar with Rolex, typically anytime that Rolex utilizes red, it makes that timepiece more collectible. So I think, and again, this Tudor Chrono, this is the inverted panda or the reverse panda, meaning that the primary dial is black, the sub-dials are a silvery white. The panda would be the primary white dial with black sub-dials. I think that this is the one to get because it's more legible. Obviously, both the Black Bay 58 and the Tudor Chrono, you can see here they have the snowflake style hands. They don't use the Mercedes hands like the Rolex does. See, it's got a snowflake. Looks like a snowflake. So that's actually that's a desirable thing when you're dealing with Tudors. This particular timepiece has a screw-down crown. Again, it's water resistant to 200 meters, 660 feet, just like my Black Bay 58. The pusher screw down, and then obviously the crown itself. So I shower with it, I swim with it. So far I hadn't had any problems. At the time of filming this, I haven't had this timepiece for a long time. But it's exceptional on the wrist. The finishing is great. The lume is nice. You know, again, no compromises here. You've got the in-house movement. It's actually, this is a Breitling, Tudor did a movement deal with Breitling, and this is a Breitling B01 movement. So it's a column wheel chronograph. So it's a very, very desirable movement. And, you know, like the other Black Bays, this bracelet feels just as good as a Rolex bracelet. It's not that jingly, hollow end links. It's solid end links. So it feels like it'll last, you know, a lifetime, several lifetimes, and it's just very well made. So again, Black Bay, and these are just two examples from the Black Bay line. If you're a wristwatch dealer, if you would like to reach out to me, if you'd like to send me some timepieces to review on my channel, I'd love to do that because I want to get my hands on a lot of timepieces and share with the world. So, you know, feel free to contact me because I'm definitely looking for a relationship with a pre-owned wristwatch dealer so that I can get access to some wristwatches to review. But yeah, these two right here, in my opinion, obviously I've got a little bit of bias because, you know, these are my timepieces, and you know, I felt that the navy and the black was a perfect duo. I've got my Chrono, you know, I've got my Tudor Daytona, my Baytona, and then I've got my blue Black Bay 58, which kind of looks like a, you know, like an old school Rolex Submariner, except both of these timepieces, again, they have modern movements. They've got modern case finishings, bracelets, you know, everything is top quality. So, you know, these watches, Tudor Black Bay is what has really put Tudor back on the map. And again, although I'm not a fan of the original Black Bay because I feel that they fit too high on one's wrist, I love the Black Bay 58 and I love the Tudor Black Bay Chrono, even though it's a larger wristwatch at 41 millimeters, proportionally, in my opinion, everything's correct. If you looked at photos or videos of the Tudor Chrono, you're probably like, man, that may be too big, that may be chunky. And I thought the same thing, but I knew that, you know, buying it sight unseen, you know, having never put it on my wrist, I knew that I could easily get rid of it if I had to, if I didn't like it. But I like it and it's a keeper. So, you know, and again, everybody's preferences are different, but I feel that it wears perfectly. So Tudor Black Bay, and again, my top two Tudor Black Bay wristwatches are, of course, these. You got the Tudor Black Bay Chrono, and you've got the Tudor Black Bay 58. I think there's a lot of room for growth in the Black Bay lineup, especially the Black Bay 58. I would like to see a Black Bay 58 GMT. I think that only makes sense. I don't know. Originally, I thought, man, they need to make a Black Bay 58 Chrono. But after getting just the Black Bay Chrono in 41 millimeters, I don't think I would want that timepiece smaller. But with that being said, the Tudor Pepsi, the Tudor Black Bay GMT, I feel that it's too thick. So if they release a Tudor Pepsi GMT in the Black Bay 58 or a Tudor Coke GMT in the Black Bay 58, I think those would be awesome sellers. And also, if Tudor, and I know they're wanting to look, more old school, more vintage, and they want to keep their identity separate from Rolex to some degree. But I think if Tudor would branch out and offer some future Black Bay pieces with ceramic bezels, even if they're matte, not shiny ceramic bezels, I think that would be a welcome addition, because I know that some people that don't understand that, aluminum develops a pleasing patina that's actually desirable in the eyes of collectors. I think a lot of people don't realize that, and they're just like, man, well, I don't get ceramic, I'm going to look somewhere else. So I think if Tudor, outside of their Pelagos line would offer ceramic bezels, I think that would help them out a lot. But yeah, Tudor is, Black Bay is what, in my opinion, has definitely brought Tudor back to life. And not only has it brought Tudor back to life, but this Black Bay line is positioning Tudor to take on the crown, to take on their main company, which is Rolex. I have no doubt about it. So with that being said, Tudor Black Bay, it has changed Tudor. Tudor prior to Black Bay, and I don't mean this in a hurtful way, Tudor prior to Black Bay was junk. And I mean that in a polite way, it was. But now it's awesome, and in my opinion, it's going to replace the entry-level Rolex wristwatch segment. Mark my words, I'm saying this in December of 2021, mark my words, and if you're watching this video a few years from now, I predicted it. And again, I don't think it's that hard to predict. And if I was wrong, laugh at me and post some nasty comments, because, sometimes people are wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. So tell me what you think down below, and be sure to subscribe. And when you do, ring that bell icon to be notified whenever I post another video. Thanks for your viewership, and y'all have a good day. Hey y'all, Captain Irix Guy here. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to subscribe. It's youtube.com/Irix Guy. And ring that bell icon when you do to be notified whenever I post another video. Thanks for your viewership, and y'all have a good day.